Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another preview. Today we're doing Daniel Dubois versus Fabio Wardley for the WBO heavyweight world title. Now, we've already seen a whole heap of fights this year and a lot of 50-50 fights. Inoue Nakatani we just saw, Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrio, Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, Andy Cruz, Raymond Muratella, just to name a few, but there's been plenty more close fights, 50-50 fights, even 60-40 fights, 55-45 fights. Fights where, depending on your opinion, you're backing one person, but not by a whole lot. And I think this fight here, so far in 2026, might be the closest one. If there's any fight that I've sort of struggled the most on deciding who I think's going to win and why, it has been this one, because for as good as Fabio Wardley's been on this run, I mean, especially his last few fights, the Frazier Clark victory, the Justice Hooney one, and capping it all off with that victory over Joseph Parker, every single time we've gone into a fight week, I've almost doubted Fabio Wardley. For most of those fights, I doubted Fabio Wardley, apart from probably the Justice Hooney one, because Justice Hooney was a late replacement. You sort of backed Fabio Wardley. If it was against Jarrell Miller, the conversation would have been different. But in a lot of these fights, Fabio Wardley has gone into the fight an underdog, and that one in Joseph Parker, definitely an underdog. But Daniel Dubois, although his last fight was a loss, Daniel Dubois has been in there with a lot better talent, and he's got a lot bigger names on his resume than what Fabio Wardley does. I mean, that victory over Anthony Joshua, that knockout victory over AJ, it bypasses anything that Fabio Wardley's done. Daniel Dubois is a very, very good boxer, and you know what? He's got a lot more amateur and professional experience than what Fabio Wardley does. Fabio Wardley only putting on the gloves at about 20 years of age. So, this fight here, I think it's got absolutely everything to make it such a close contest. And why I'm sort of stuck here deciding which fighter I think is going to win. I have made up my mind. I'm going to tell you at the end who I think is going to win and why. But if you all could first head down the bottom there, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please do leave all your thoughts in the comments below. We all love a good prediction, trying to work out who's going to win a fight. And that's what we're doing in this video today. But first of all, we just got to take a second to talk about this fight in its entirety, because these two guys, these two big heavyweight fighters, this fight's only going to go one way. Much like most of Fabio Wardley's fights, and much like Daniel Dubois' fights, this fight's going one way. It's called Don't Blink for a reason, because I think this fight here could very well go down as fight of the year. We say that a lot, we use that phrase a lot, but if these two styles mesh, if these two guys approach this fight the way we think they're going to do, it's going to be fireworks for as long as it lasts, because this fight could very well go 90 seconds and be over. One of these guys laying unconscious on the floor. I hope we get to see a good 7, 8, 9 rounds of high octane action, at the end of which, at the peak of which, we see a big knockout to the person that, deserves it more. I'm not going to say I don't necessarily have a hat in this race. I like them both the same. I know who I think's going to win this fight, but in terms of the fight itself, I mean, this here shows, Turki Al-Sheikh doesn't really have anything to do with this fight, and they've been able to put on this fight plus an absolutely stacked card. Eko Usman, Joel Love, there's heaps of names on this fight card. So I just wanted to talk about the fight itself, because I do think it is a mega, mega fight. And both of these guys are still very young. All right, they're neither of which are that sort of 36, 37, 38 years of age of these AJs, these Tyson Furies, these Alexander Usyks. We could very well see a Fabio Wardley and a Daniel Dubois at their ages right now in the heavyweight division for another 6 years. And you know what? A potential 2 fights between these guys, a potential 3 fights between these guys, depending on how this fight goes, depending on what happens after these. Daniel Dubois and Fabio Wardley are 2 of the best heavyweights, and still at a very good age to keep running through for the next few years. So it's very, very exciting. I can't wait for this fight, because, like I said, I don't see this fight going any other way but absolute fireworks. But let's talk about who I think is going to win and why. And one of the big talking points when you talk about this fight, well, when you just talk about Daniel Dubois, is this thing of, is he a quitter? Is he going to quit against Fabio Wardley? Because Fabio Wardley's shown that to stop Fabio Wardley, to beat Fabio Wardley, which nobody's been able to do, you have to knock this guy out. There is no question about it. You have to knock Fabio Wardley out, because Justice Hooney was all over him for the best part of 10 rounds. Joseph Parker had him hurt multiple times in that fight, took him to 10 rounds as well. Frazier Clark saw the distance but couldn't beat him, has a rematch with him, gets knocked out cold in the very first round. David Adelaide ate those big shots from Fabio Wardley after a few rounds. For Fabio Wardley to lose, you have to put him out, because even when he's hurt, even when he's being hit with combinations, even when he's well behind in a fight, the guy just never, ever gives up. He never loses hope, and he always seems to find a way to find victory. The gas tank is elite. His athleticism is elite. Whatever you question about his boxing acumen, which we are going to talk about, the one thing about Fabio Wardley is you have to hit him with something, that he actually physically can't get up from, because he would just keep pushing through and pushing through and pushing through, which is a very different comparison to what we talk about Daniel Dubois. Because Daniel Dubois has shown over the course of his career that even a punch that might not knock you out, a punch that most fighters will try and get up from and push through. You know, a fighter's instinct of always just keep getting up and pushing through until either the corner saves you or your ref saves you. Daniel Dubois has never sort of been that guy. Daniel Dubois is a guy that sort of, when he realizes that he's losing a fight, when he realizes that failure is imminent, he's not willing to go out on his sword, and he's saying, all right, I've had enough. We saw it against Dubois. Yes, there was a few injuries. He did his orbital bone, whatever have you, but I've seen plenty of fighters do an orbital bone and say, you know what, I'm not letting this, be the do or die in this fight. I'm going to keep pushing through. I can't see out of the eye. We're going to risk it all. We saw it against Alexander Usyk in those two fights. The first one definitely looked like a quit. The second one, look, he ate some big shots. And the second one, I don't sort of critique him as harshly from, but I know plenty of fighters that after that second knockdown would have tried to get up a little bit quicker and really tried to push on. He looked over his corner. There is a lot of question marks when it comes to Daniel Dubois and his sort of backbone. When the going gets hard, he does tend to quit. And in this fight here, there has been a lot of talk about that. And I feel like when there's a lot of talk about a situation, you sort of try and do everything to not be in that situation, which I think we'll see from Daniel Dubois, a bit of a reaction, a sort of fight where he will be put down to a point where he can't actually get up, and we won't see him quit. Because of how much noise is surrounding this issue, Daniel Dubois won't want to be poised as a quitter again. The other thing on that is, though, sometimes you are just made to quit. Sometimes you do just get hit with a thunderbolt like Alexander Usyk did in that second fight. That left hook that he hits him with to finish that fight. It's why I don't really begrudge him too much, because not many fighters would get up from that punch, considering he got dropped earlier in that fight. And although I do think when you talk about these two guys, Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois, there is a clear guy that will wear his heart on his sleeve and really push through any situation. And that is Fabio Wardley. For Daniel Dubois, if Fabio Wardley can make this hard fight that he gave Joseph Parker, he will outwork and he will stop Daniel Dubois, because I don't think Daniel Dubois has that heart, that will to just keep pushing forward no matter what the situation is. And the longer the fight goes, you do favor Fabio Wardley anyway. And let's talk about that, because Daniel Dubois is an absolute live dog. And I think Daniel Dubois is most dangerous in the first 4 rounds. I think Fabio Wardley, if this fight goes long, it's Fabio Wardley's. If Daniel Dubois can capitalize on those first 5 rounds like he did against Anthony Joshua, he wins this fight. Because Daniel Dubois is a very, very quick starter. He will use a lot of energy in those first 4 rounds. You even look back to that first Usyk fight. Daniel Dubois was fighting very well in the first few rounds of the first Usyk fight, not so much in the second Usyk fight. And even in the Miller and the Hrgović fights, he works very, very hard at the start of the fight. And that goes 2 ways. He either outworks his opponent, and then he can slow down in the second half of the fight because he's well on top and he's going to stroll to victory. Or he exhausts himself in the first few rounds, tires out, and then we see what Alexander Usyk did to him in those 2 fights. We saw what Joe Joyce did to him in those fights. For Miller really offered little. Hrgović, his eyes were shattered. A mix of headbutts and, the punches. We are going to talk about that fight separately and what that means for Daniel Dubois coming into this fight and what Fabio Wardley needs to do to avoid that. But for Daniel Dubois, he is at his most dangerous in this first few rounds. We saw what he did to Anthony Joshua when he hit him early in that fight. That's something Fabio Wardley needs to be mindful of. He needs to keep that high guard up. He needs to keep moving. He needs to allow Daniel Dubois to keep throwing those bombs, keep moving forward, use that aggressive style, but have no luck with it. Exhaust him out, because if Daniel Dubois goes the first 3 or 4 rounds expending a lot of energy and has no success, his will in that fight, his energy in that fight will go very, very quickly, because it's easier to keep your energy up when you're using a lot, but you're having success. When you're using a lot of energy and having no success, it drains you. It drains you massively, not only physically, but mentally as well. And I think that's what Fabio Wardley needs to do, but he needs to be mindful, because Daniel Dubois is a very good puncher. He's a very good boxer. He's very good at setting it up. He uses his jab very well, and it's a powerful jab. It is a very strong jab. So for Fabio Wardley, he's got to be able to find a way to keep Daniel Dubois off him. There was a few times in that Joseph Parker fight, especially, where he was unable to keep Joseph Parker off him. Joseph Parker had him up against the ropes a few times. Same with Justis Huni. Justis Huni's footwork and speed was able to get on the inside and land punches. Daniel Dubois doesn't have as good a footwork as Justis Huni, but he is a big, strong guy that will keep walking forward and will keep throwing bombs. So you have to be mindful of that anyway. And in terms of front and forward, back and forth motion, Daniel Dubois does have good footwork. He's very good at getting in and out of the pocket, going in a straight line. The sideways movement that Justice Hooney has, Daniel Dubois doesn't have. All right. But going forward and back, Daniel Dubois is very measured in doing it. He's very good at being able to make you miss and capitalize and moving forward. He did that a few times to Anthony Joshua, make Anthony Joshua faint, make Anthony Joshua throw out a lazy jab, and then that's what I'm going to pounce on. And Fabio Wardley does throw a jab out, so he needs to make sure that he brings it back every single time. Now, what Fabio Wardley needs to do in this fight to win it is pretty much keep it calm for the first 4 or 5 rounds. Don't do anything silly. Don't do anything, trying to knock him out in the first few rounds. Don't do anything that will put you at risk because, like I said, you got to wear Daniel Dubois out. The longer this fight goes, the more in hands of Fabio Wardley it is. Fabio Wardley has a gas tank on him. He's very athletic. He's very, very good at moving around the ring. And I think that's what he needs to do. He needs to keep away from Daniel Dubois, use that strong jab that he does have and that's growing every single fight. Use that jab, keep sending it out there, make Daniel Dubois really have to move in because Daniel Dubois doesn't have any head movement. So he's just going to constantly walking forward into that jab, couple it up with the right hand like Hrgović did. Hrgović was landing on will, 1s and 2s. Just simple, bang, 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 straight down the pipe, constantly in that fight against Daniel Dubois. I know it was to no avail, but that's still a promising shot. And Fabio Wardley, when he lands that right hand, it's got a lot more destructive power than what Hrgović was landing on him. So I think that is the trick to Fabio Wardley. It's use that jab, use that 1-2 early in the fight. Once Daniel Dubois slows, once that power starts to, decrease, once the energy starts to decrease, once his will physically and emotionally starts to decrease, that's when you get on the inside. That's when you capitalize. That's when you start landing those big hooks and uppercuts that we saw you land against Joseph Parker. And that is a trick for Fabio Wardley. When Daniel Dubois does get in close, when he does get in the inside, use that uppercut. I don't think fighters use it enough, especially against Daniel Dubois. It's sort of a two-pronged thing here that I'm going to talk about because Daniel Dubois, we all know he leads with the head. Every single fight you watch him, he falls over, he leans in, he leads with the head. Now, Fabio Wardley needs to keep out for that because the last thing he wants to do is have a busted eye from a headbutt, have a swollen eye, swollen cheek, broken face because of the headbutts from Daniel Dubois. You have to be mindful of that because he's going to do it. I hope the ref gets onto him. The ref was onto him in that AJ fight. You saw it earlier. I think he gave him warnings in the first and the second round. Can't remember if it was the same in the Usyk fight, but it was definitely in the AJ fight, the warnings. I hope the referee does get on top of it because in that Hrgović fight, they did deem the cuts to be from punches, but there's plenty of footage out there seeing Daniel Dubois' head clash against Filip Hrgović. So I hope the referee gets on top of that. But when a guy does lead with his head, when he does have his head down like that, the uppercut's right there to land through the guard. And Daniel Dubois has no defense. Daniel Dubois is a great attacking fighter. He's great on the front foot. When he's bullying you, when he's using his jab, when he's using his big right hand, he's a great fighter. But when Daniel Dubois is on his back foot, when he's hurt, when he's trying to defend, it's non-existent. It is so easy to hit this guy. One of the reasons for that is because you see how bulky Daniel Dubois is, see how big those shoulders are. He can't really physically shell up and do this. A bit like Anthony Yarde. Like the shelling just doesn't work for these big shoulders. That meaning the ears, the side of the heads are open there for those hooks that Fabio Wardley is able to land. But I think if Fabio Wardley wants to land those, he has to get Daniel Dubois on the back foot. He's getting him retreating. And when Daniel Dubois is on the retreat, when he is hurt, he throws his hands even more. We saw it when he got hurt against Alexander Usyk in that second fight. He just starts letting his hands fly. That opened the opportunity for Alexander Usyk to back up, allow that punch to come through, that big right hook, and then he slaps him with that left hook and knocks him out. So for Fabio Wardley, I think a measured fight in this is key. I think not allowing emotion to overrule you in the opening rounds. Keep Daniel Dubois at a distance, outboxing for the first few rounds, and then start loading on the pressure. Uppercuts, hooks are all going to be key. Using that flush 1-2 that we've seen him land. We saw that big right hand that he put Justice Hooney down with. There's going to be plenty of openings, but he's going to have to be smart about it. The keys to victory for Daniel Dubois are quite simple. It's using your boxing acumen. You are a much better boxer than what Fabio Wardley is. Fabio Wardley is growing as a boxer, but as a technician, using a good jab, using a powerful jab, setting up your punches, using combinations to the body and the head, Daniel Dubois far outweighs the skill of Fabio Wardley. And that's a key to Daniel Dubois. As much as you want to go in there and you want to knock his head off, you got to be measured. You got to set it up. You got to use those boxing skills. You got to get in and out of the pocket, make Fabio Wardley miss, and try and capitalize on a lazy jab from Fabio Wardley. Because if Fabio Wardley starts throwing that jab out and doesn't bring it back like Anthony Joshua did, that right hand's going to be there to land. And I'm not sure Fabio Wardley, when you talk about Fabio Wardley, he's been in there with some good boxers. All right, Joseph Parker especially, Justice Hooney, a good up-and-coming boxer. But I don't really look at any of these guys, Adelaide, Fraser Clark, Justice Hooney, Joseph Parker. None of them anywhere close have the power of what Daniel Dubois has. And there has been a few times that Fabio Wardley has been hurt. And these are from lesser punches. So I can't imagine Fabio Wardley, as much as his will and heart is there to keep on moving, I think Daniel Dubois lands a flush shot, and as much will and as much heart as Fabio Wardley has, he's not going to be able to get up. He's not going to be able to push through. I don't see Fabio Wardley having an elite chin to take a punch from Daniel Dubois. The only people that we really see taking punches from Daniel Dubois, especially clean, I mean, Miller took it very, very well, but look at the size of Miller. Look at the neck. Look at the head of Miller. I don't see Fabio Wardley, especially if his chin starts hanging up, a bit like Anthony Joshua's did. If that punch lands, I don't see him landing that. So getting up from that. So for Daniel Dubois, it is quite simple. It is capitalize on the first 5 rounds, push him back, use your boxing skills, make Fabio Wardley make a mistake, make Fabio Wardley get emotional and start throwing his hands, and then land that big right punch. I think this fight here is so close because of how explosive Daniel Dubois is going to be in those first few rounds. Up until about the 5th or the 6th round, Daniel Dubois is going to be an absolute handful, and I'm just not totally convinced Fabio Wardley is going to be able to handle that. And if he does eat a punch, if he does fall into a trap from Daniel Dubois, I don't see him getting up. The big difference in this fight for me, though, is I think Fabio Wardley is getting better and better every time we see him. He overcomes every challenge. The fact that he was able to outbox Joseph Parker shows to me that he is not that white-collar boxer that we all believed he was. This guy is now a fully developed boxer. He's been in the sport for 10 years now at the top level. He's become a world champion. If you believe that adage of you become better when you become a world champion, that's all going to happen for Fabio Wardley. And Daniel Dubois is going to come into this fight. I'm not sure how he's going to start, considering the last time we saw him, he got knocked out cold pretty much from Alexander Usyk. He got absolutely spanked in that fight. How does that change Daniel Dubois? I still think there's a problem with Daniel Dubois' mentality and his team. The way we saw him approach that second Usyk fight, the fact that he fired his coach, and before this fight, he's gone back to Don Charles. I think there is a lot happening in that Daniel Dubois corner. I don't think he has the will or the heart to run it over the course of 12 rounds against Fabio Wardley, who is going to hit him with some punches. He's going to have success. He could even down Dubois during this fight, and there's a very good chance he does it because he's got a lot of power, Fabio Wardley. And for these reasons, I think Fabio Wardley, with his skill, with this strong 1-2 that he has, with the movement that he has to get away from Daniel Dubois, and this constant, never say die that Fabio Wardley has and that Daniel Dubois doesn't, for me, that is the reason I'm just very, very, by the skin of my teeth, saying Fabio Wardley wins this fight. I think method of victory is a late stoppage in favor of Fabio Wardley. I think as long as he survives those early few rounds, he either goes to a decision and wins it, or he stops Daniel Dubois. And I feel like Fabio Wardley's got the power. He's got that want, that greed to stop Daniel Dubois. And that's why I'm tipping Fabio Wardley by a stoppage in the 10th round, a TKO victory to Fabio Wardley against Daniel Dubois in the 10th round to retain his WBO heavyweight title. Guys, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'm out of here, guys. See ya.